Okay, there are certain things, if there's a case pending, that's what a Lis Pendens is called. That means that there's
notice.
Right, it's given notice. That's a case that's at the courthouse. Has been filed against the property, and it would constitute a claim against the property. So in order to issue a policy, we would have to have that Lis Pendens either released, or the case would have had to come to completion. If, for instance, it was somebody suing another person because they say they have a fence encroachment, and it's on this particular piece of property, well, you can't just ignore it. So there either has to be some type of a written agreement, and the court has to say, yes, this property is now, this boundary agreement will be the line, so therefore the case would be completed.
Where the court makes a declaration as to what
that would constitute a judgment in that case. In some cases, there's judgments that show up on a property, but they're monetary judgments, and that would have to be called out too. If it's against the individual that owns the property that we're dealing with, then they would have to pay that judgment. If it turns out that it's in their favor, then there wouldn't be any money exchanging hands that would establish a claim against the property. It would be to the benefit of the property. Now, a race date is referred to a lot of times if a deed has been filed. Suppose an owner, in some cases, maybe it's an elderly person who's totally forgotten, and they deed a piece of property to me, and next week they deed a piece of property to Sandra. But I've gotten my deed recorded at the courthouse first. My deed would take preference because it's a race date.
Even if my deed was dated previous, it doesn't matter. Whichever one makes it to the courthouse first, that becomes the valid deed.
The fee simple. However, the other deed that was recorded after that would constitute a lien against the property.
A cloud.
A cloud. Somebody would have to quit claim that property to clear up the deed, to clear up the conflict in the property. So it's very important that when a deed is recorded, and that's why when a closing takes place, that deed needs to be recorded as quickly as possible to avoid any conflict.
Well, you have also the interest, but you also you want to get it recorded as quickly as possible because you have any judgment or anything that could come out there. If the seller would get a judgment, say you have a deed, you close on it, but you wait 2 weeks to record it. In that 2 weeks, if a judgment has been put on the seller, that attaches to the property until that deed is recorded. So once that deed is recorded, even if he'd get 5 minutes later, the previous seller would get a judgment, it wouldn't attach to the property. So it's real important to get that deed to the courthouse as quickly as possible.
That brings up another point too, that a warranty deed is recorded to give proper notice to individuals. But it also is a safety measure. If a person loses a deed but it has been recorded at the courthouse, you actually don't have to have the original deed because a certified copy can be obtained from the courthouse. And so it's your proof that you have the ownership, but it also would provide notice to other people so that they would be able to tell who owns that property. And that becomes very important in a lot of cases, you know. Now there are also bills of sale which we deal with sometimes. For instance, if a person has a boat dock, those are transfer of personal property, whereas excuse me, the real estate is transferred by the warranty deed.
There's two types of policies. One is for the benefit of the owner, and one is for the benefit of the mortgagee, which it would be the bank. If a person, say a buyer wants to buy a piece of property and they are going to get a loan, the bank requires a mortgagee's policy. They will not do it without this because they want that added, the bank wants that added protection. But that policy protects the bank, it doesn't protect the individual.
And the policy is only limited till that mortgage is paid off, whereas an owner's policy continues, like she mentioned, from the date of that policy backward. Even if it transfers in ownership, if that policy, for instance, if a person has a policy and I'm going to sell it to somebody else and I give my policy to the title company to get a reissue credit, which saves me some money when I'm selling, But that will be the basis that the title company would go back on all of those policies that they have in succession. So they're valid, there's no loss, whereas a mortgagee's policy, if the bank is paid off, then there wouldn't be a claim for the bank to make because it's already been paid off. And that's another reason why the expense is less for the bank, because it's a limited liability, whereas, the length of time is less. Whereas with an owner's policy, it continues on. But you do get that added benefit of getting a reissue credit when you go to sell. A lot of these questions too, if a person has any questions, they're more than welcome to please stop by our office at the corner of 7th and Baker and come on in. We'll be glad to show them. It's kind of hard to just explain what we've been doing, but it's a lot easier to show them, and we'd be more than happy to show what our records look like. If they want to see some of those land patents signed by the presidents, we even have some copies of those. But we appreciate the opportunity of giving you this information, and you can contact us at Alley Abstract, area code 870-425-2264, and on our website at www.alleyabstract.com. And we appreciate you. Thank you.